It's time to make a boiled dinner. Boiled dinner, fucking malt liquor, fucking video. Well, today found out one of my buddies died of an overdose. And then I found out that my very, very dear close friend, probably best friend, mom passed away yesterday. I just found out minutes ago, so I just... Fuck. It's saddening. It's hard to believe and saddening. I don't even know. Just take a moment of silence, I guess. Thanks for this food and gratitude and grateful. Thank you. I'm just praying for anyone who's having a difficult time. Pray for people who've lost loved ones. And for everyone in the whole goddamn world. Oh, God damn it.
Well, today was kind of a good day. I mean, we got to win a little bit of money.
Yeah, but nevertheless.
I know.
It's easy to spend. Is today the 28th?
Yeah.
Is it?
Or the 29th, let me see.
No, it's the 29th. What time is it?
5:17.
This is probably happening live. 27th. Why can't I find this? Here we go. January 29th, full episode.
Congress works to avoid
It's
another
live.
government shutdown. We report from Antarctica on a scientific expedition to understand climate change. And Walmart heiress Alice Walton founds a nonprofit blending traditional education with art.
Nicole made a wonderful boiled dinner today. Ham.
Well, senators are racing to find a solution as the federal government is once again on the verge of a partial shutdown. This time, there's hope for a bipartisan deal on the key issue, the conduct of ICE and other DHS officers. Congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins has been following it and is here with the latest. So Lisa, a day away from another partial shutdown, where do things stand?
We have news. We have breaking news. In fact, so per multiple sources, there is a deal on the table now between Republicans and Democrats. As I speak to you, what's happening in the U.S. Senate, they're going through a process of hotlining it, meaning especially Republican senators, they go along with a fast-track vote on all of this as soon as tonight. So let's talk about what's in this potential deal, first of all. Okay, Now, this would fund the 5 agencies involved that need funding, all but DHS, for full funding for the rest of the fiscal year. DHS would be taken out, and it would get 2 weeks of funding instead, a short-term funding deal for DHS for 2 weeks. That would allow then, in the meanwhile, time for lawmakers to work out a potential deal on ICE and DHS conduct. Now, this is a breakthrough, and I am told that the White House has been part of this negotiating all along, so we think the president is on board as well. But there are still issues ahead of this. This is not necessarily easy. First of all, some Senate Republicans do have concerns, are skeptical about the spending, including earmarks in this package, and how ICE is treated. In addition, there is Speaker Johnson. His office confirms to me that he has concerns about this short-term Homeland Security fix. Now, at the same time, the House is not even in session on that. And I don't need to remind you and our viewers, but I will. The deadline is tomorrow. So all of this needs approval, not just by the Senate, but also by the House. So let's imagine a best case scenario. The Senate passes this deal tonight. That's still not sure, but tonight or tomorrow, the House still has to do it. So right now, we will have a partial government shutdown, at least over the weekend.
It's
And
worth it.
much farther than that, it depends a lot about when the House can come back and if this deal does get through the Senate.
Okay, so impossible.
It's not like the
to
American
sign
people
it,
need the
but still
goddamn
a
government
potential
anymore. They don't do
shutdown.
shit anyway.
Walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah, let's
Except
remind people,
hired
first of all,
fucking
Congress already
punks.
passed funding for itself, parks, and a slew of agencies.
Everybody
but
just wants to get
70%
rich
of
up
what it governs is still waiting for funding.
contracts
Let's take a look at
through
exactly
funding.
what that means. This is the list. A lot of big agencies.
People are
Homeland Security,
dying.
Defense, HHS. The hope, of course,
All they
is
can
that
care
most
about
of
is
these
their
would be funded.
goddamn
And again,
paychecks.
DHS would be taken
People
out
live
of the
in
package
poverty.
of
This
bills.
is a
So
third world
partial
country for
shutdown of
most
Homeland
people
Security. You may be surprised
that live here are
ICE,
poor.
for example, is already funded. So is CBP by a surge in funding that
It's
happened
third
last
world
summer.
shit.
How about the other parts of Homeland Security? Look at that. FEMA, that has reserves, TSA,
Right, babe?
and also the Coast Guard. Those agents,
Sure,
people
babe.
working for those agencies are paid until February 13th. So what's the bottom line here? It's good news for these agencies in that any shutdown, weekend or more, would be a minimal effect shutdown, but it sort of takes pressure off of lawmakers, but important for all these agencies to know where they're at.
Well, Lisa, you reported on the shift you heard among senators on working towards a deal. This is a big shift for the White House, for President Trump to want to work towards compromise and a deal. What's your
It's
reporting?
about time.
This takes us back to other times where you would see a White House engaging and sort of open to compromise in a way that we haven't seen from this Trump administration. Yes, I think it's the reality on the ground that mattered, the videos of Americans and how they were treated, especially Alex Preddy. And today, I think we heard about
Renee, good.
constitutional
Christ's sake.
questions. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries brought up this idea that search and seizure protections had been on the line and affected Republicans as well.
These extremists seem to believe that the Fourth Amendment does not apply to DHS enforcement activity. They've lost their minds, and the American people know it.
Now, where we are tonight, of course, is that we're hoping for this deal, or many are on board want this deal for funding. If they get this deal, then we will have a 2-week conversation about what needs to happen with ICE and DHS themselves. And we know that will be, again, a hard conversation.
Very big thanks to you, Lisa, and a very happy birthday to you as well on this day. Lisa
Birthday
Desjardins.
Well, for a Republican perspective on all of this, I spoke earlier with Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin before the latest announcement of a deal. Senator Ron Johnson, welcome back to the NewsHour.
Thanks for having me on.
President Trump sounded positive today about the possibility of avoiding a government shutdown, saying that he's engaged in talks with Democrats. You were among the Republicans who joined with Democrats in voting to block the funding legislation from advancing. Why?
Well, I'm just basically a thoroughly discusser of the process. I've been here 15 years. We should have passed, in that time frame, 180 appropriation bills on time before the start of the fiscal year in which they were funding. We've passed 6. That's a 96.7% failure rate. To address that, I proposed, and we voted on the Eliminate Shutdown Act. We get rid of this dysfunction for all time. Pretty simple bill, just rolling 14-day automatic appropriations till the appropriators can come to agreement to pass appropriation bills. Short of that, the Shutdown Fairness Act. Let's at least pay these people. We're going to do it after the fact. Let's pay them on time. Neither bill has been passed yet. Throw on top of that, this package, in order to get it passed, includes $14.3 billion worth of earmarks. I'm part of the Republican Senate Conference. We have a resolution against earmarks. We're in charge. We've got the chairmanship of the committee, and we're going to allow $14.3 billion of earmarks when we're approaching $39 trillion in debt. So,
Cook your ass off.
disgusted by the process. Other people can pass it. I'm not going to participate.
Why isn't there a greater will on Capitol Hill to
Visited
avoid
your butt
government
off.
by brinksmanship?
Because this is the way it's been done.
I'm
This
going
dysfunction
down
is
there.
acceptable. Unitary appropriators
I'll put things
like
away
the
as
fact
a
that these government
boiled
shutdowns
dinner off,
to create
or are you
leverage
still
for
cooking it?
their passing of bills that we can't afford.
It's on.
Again,
So,
let me $39 trillion
Hold on, should I leave it
realize discretionary spending is only
for
about
a
a
while?
quarter of all spending.
Just keep an eye on it.
yeah.
Earmarks
Okay.
are a gateway drug.
I'll probably
When I
keep
first
pigging
got
out
in
on it,
2011,
man.
this was a big
Shit.
debate between Tom Coburn and Jim
Never get enough
Inhofe,
of this
two
stuff.
senators from Oklahoma. Senator Inhofe made some good points. You can't let all the spending decisions up to just the president. But I sided with Tom Coburn that these earmarks are literally the gateway drug that greases the skids. We were $14 trillion in debt back in 2011. Now we're approaching $39 trillion. The system is completely out of control, completely broken. Somebody's got to stand up here and point that out and just vote no every now and again.
Democrats in these talks are calling for reforms to the way that ICE operates. They're calling for the wearing of body cameras, no wearing masks, tightening the use of warrants. Are any of those things that you can support?
Well, first of all, they're trying to basically take the focus
Okay.
off
What am I gonna do,
of
Ben?
the
You're gonna go to sleep.
problem, which is their open border policy. In fact, we've flooded millions of people into this country. A significant number are murderers and rapists and gang members, members of transnational criminal organizations, drug
But I
kings,
just wanna
sex
take a nap.
traffickers. You know, they concentrate on
Yeah.
the martyrs that they have created
Yeah.
by encouraging their supporters to go out and obstruct justice,
Love you too.
resulting in the tragic deaths of two individuals in Minnesota. So they don't want people taking a look at the real problem, which is the massive problem they caused with their open borders. They want to focus now on DHS and blame DHS, the very people that are charged with trying to clean up their enormous mess.
But even the administration is taking a different view. You had Tom Homan today. He publicly acknowledged that federal immigration enforcement in Minneapolis, in his words, hasn't been perfect and that certain improvements could and should be made to how ICE and federal agents are operating there. At the same time, there's a new Fox News poll that shows 59% of registered voters now say that ICE's deportation efforts have been too aggressive. So given that, isn't there an acknowledgement, even within the administration, that more needs to be done to balance immigration enforcement and public safety?
Again, I know you want to focus on the problems that we've had trying to clean up the mess. But I, for one, have a great deal of sympathy for an ICE officer. How would you like to be somebody conducting legal law enforcement activity, and you've got the lieutenant governor of the state of Minnesota managing a signal chat, so they're encouraging their protesters to surround
So what?
ICE officers? They're under threat. They're
We
being
can
doused
protest
and
peacefully.
rammed by these peaceful protesters.
You're sticking up for bully
So, yes,
punks,
ICE officers
trigger
are
happy
under
redneck
alert, which has
people that
resulted in
haven't been
deaths. I've got a
trained.
great deal of
Representative
sympathy
Ron
for the ICE
Johnson.
officers who are
You're just like Bovino,
safe. They're trying to
blaming the
keep
fucking
safe.
people
They're being
for
frustrated.
sticking up to your rich ass people,
Some of your
Republicans, and give a
colleagues,
fuck.
to include Senator Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, they're now calling for the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to step down. The president notably did not call on her at today's cabinet meeting when he was going around the table. You said that she got over her skis in her initial comments about the shooting death of Alex Preddy. Drawing on your experience as the former chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, do you believe that she deserves to stay in the job?
I believe that's the president's call. I'll leave it up to him.
You don't have a view on it?
I'll leave it up to the president. Again, they
You
serve
fucking
the-
asshole. You want to say
his
shit about
president,
the American
and that's his
people, but you can't say shit about fucking some hot, dumb bitch that doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
Trade deals around the world are being negotiated,
Fuck.
signed, and celebrated
Ron
without
Johnson.
the U.S. Leaders are looking to other sources of economic
He looks like a
partnership
white
as turbulent
supremacist.
tariff policies, harsh rhetoric, and unpredictable social media posts from President Trump push allies to the edge. Nick Schifrin has this report.
This is not the pivot to Asia the U.S. intended. Today, the first British Prime Minister visit to Beijing in 8 years, and Keir Starmer told Chinese President Xi Jinping he wanted a lasting relationship.
I've long been
Uh,
UK and China need a long-term, consistent,
of course you do.
strategic partnership.
The person who must not be named, President Trump, only referenced in passing by a Chinese leader who presented himself as a source of stability.
Currently, the international situation is intertwined with changes and turmoil. As long as we uphold a broad historical perspective, transcend our differences, and respect each other, we will be able to deliver results that can withstand the test of history.
It's not the first time in
I'm
history
just
that
loving
British
this boiled
nations
dinner.
visited Beijing to make business deals.
I'm glad you
But
brought
it
it
comes
there.
despite British criticisms that China is a threat to national security.
It just reminds me of my childhood.
Property. Keir Starmer doesn't really know how to deal with China. My worry is that he's going there with a begging bowl.
But more European leaders are walking the Chinese red carpet. Earlier this week, it was Finland's Prime Minister.
I asked your mom if she liked other types of foods, and I said, "You like lasagna?" She's like, "Oh yeah."
Those changes have pushed Europe into Asia's arms.
We did it. We delivered the mother of all deals.
So
This week, the
I said, "We'll have another cook-off
finalized a deal that represents a third of global trade.
and cook lasagna."
Today, Europe upgraded its ties with Vietnam as European Council President Antonio Costa
And she said that you probably know a good
At
recipe
the moment when international
for homemade
trade
lasagna.
is under threat from multiple sides, we need to start to stand side by side as reliable and predictable partners.
We've helped them for so many years, we've never gotten anything.
It was only last week that President Trump proved himself unpredictable over Danish territory Greenland and disparaged the very concept of NATO's collective defense.
And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease.
The European response has been visceral.
Europe is no longer Washington's primary center of gravity.
I need some
The
cherries.
shift has been ongoing for a while. It is structural.
After I finish this boiled dinner, I'm going down.
Europe must step up. No great power in history has ever outsourced its survival and
I put a few cherries in the pie for your mom. Surprise her.
Transition.
Western doubt in the
Is
U.S.
it
was publicly
cream
expressed by
pie?
Canadian.
Or I mean, I just set them on the side of the cheesecake.
His own automotive trade deal in Beijing.
So I hope she likes the cherries.
President Trump.
Le monde a changé. The world has changed. Washington has changed. It's normal.
I mean,
Bust out the bag, babe. Bring it
That's
here.
the truth.
But Canada and Europe still rely on the U.S. for security, natural gas, and oil. And the trading relationship is worth more than
I think I need to have
this is
more.
what we believe in.
I need more boiled dinner.
Secretary General
So good for you, Dad.
thinks you, I get it.
It's so
Oh,
Or Europe
You know how
can
many
defend itself without the US.
nutrients are in this?
oh yeah.
In that
I feel
sense,
empowered.
was the ultimate guarantor of our freedom
Sad
against
and
the US nuclear umbrella.
Two deaths in the last day.
the hard reality of
One of my close,
that they're
dear
considering a
best
more
friend,
independent
John's
future,
mom.
Thanks to Dallas,
Oh.
by President
Oh.
PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schiffer.
Well, to help us understand the implications of these shifting global relationships, I'm joined now by Chrystia Freeland, the former Deputy Prime Minister and former
Louis
Foreign Affairs Minister
Flawed.
of Canada. Chrystia, welcome back to the News Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
So before I ask you specifically about Canada, I want to get your big picture
Just-
view on those new deals we just reported on. The EU with India and Vietnam, Britain and China. How do you see those? Are those a response to or a backlash to President Trump's tariff threats and other threats against NATO allies?
Nothing. I just.
Yeah, I think in part
There are
they
no
are.
words to
I mean,
express
I think those deals, and I think
No,
the
there
really
isn't.
important one is the EU.
Oh.
the
deal.
emotional.
Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, described that deal
Realm
as
of all
the
that.
mother of
It's
all
just-
deals. Maybe a bit of an
I don't know what
exaggeration,
to even
but
say or
it's
do.
really, really significant. That's an agreement between two really big economies, and traditionally, it's quite hard to do a trade deal with India. I'm a former trade minister, and it takes a long time to negotiate with the Indians. They're very professional, very careful, very good. So the fact that they signed that deal, very, very significant. And I think it's a good thing for the world.
Be grateful
In
for
terms
what
of
you
dealing
got.
with China here, I do
While
want
you
to
got
get
it,
to what the
folks.
EU's climate chief said today.
We all go
He
there.
said the EU should resist China's
Be
pull
grateful
on
We all go
clean tech.
there.
In particular, he warned about
When you got
economic
them.
coercion, also warned about potential kill
Life's
switches
too
in
short.
the technology that could threaten the EU's energy system. And I should note that Canada just signed a deal to allow thousands of Chinese electric vehicles into the country at a new lower tariff rate. So does Canada not share those same security and economic concerns?
Look, I think the China question is a really important one. And when I was finance minister, I actually put in place tariffs on Chinese cars, tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum, matching the tariffs that the Biden administration had put in place. And we put those tariffs in place because we recognized the security challenges from China, because we recognize the need to protect our workers, Canadian manufacturing workers, from Chinese intentional oversupply. But we also did it because of our partnership with the United States, and we wanted to be a good friend and a good ally. It's hard to have those friends, though, when countries are feeling pressure.
I feel like
from
I
the
could just
United
keep
States,
eating boiled
including
dinners
tariffs from the
nonstop
United
for the next 6 hours.
So if we see this as part of a Canadian effort to pivot slightly away from the United States, then for Canada specifically, I mean, the two economies are so integrated, right? For every 2 out of every 3 Canadian exporters, the U.S. is the sole market. So how difficult is it going to be for Canada to pivot away?
Look, I think diversification is always a good idea. Whether you are a business or a country, to rely on a single client a single customer is never a great idea. But what I'd also like to take the opportunity to say tonight to all of your American viewers is we want to be your friends. I think the vast majority of Canadians would prefer a close, effective, mutually beneficial
Yeah, we do as people, but fucking President Trump's a fucking dick-ass. He's the one fucking it up.
The USMCA
And the Republic cocksuckers.
We negotiated that with the first Trump administration.
We the people don't
along the way.
really give a shit about Trump.
Were imposed on Canada at one point. We responded.
Probably the same way in Canada.
Retaliation.
The Canadian people don't give a shit about the Prime Minister. He's rich. There's so much poverty in Canada, probably.
And yet, despite the long alliance between the two countries, we saw the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Like, bring it down to the people.
Us being in a
Not to fucking
corruption.
leaders.
He mentioned the old order is not.
All you're talking about is
What's
rich
happening now
industry,
is the beginning of a
dealing
new
with
world
rich
order. What does that
industry,
look like to you?
and a bunch of slaves.
I think
And we get to shit into the stick.
A lot of America's
I don't give a
traditional
fuck where you're
allies
from.
are
The whole world's a
finding
third world
it's
country.
really challenging. I was at Davos. One of the comments that struck me the most was actually from the Prime Minister of.
And I'm sick of that shit.
Now, he is a conservative. He is part of the right-wing group in the EU. He is an Atlanticist. He is the kind of person who traditionally would be a great ally of the United States.
Cherry,
And he
cherry.
said, being a happy vassal is one thing, being a miserable slave
Can't wait till they
is
start getting
something
sweeter.
else. So when a phlegmatic Flemish Belgian Prime Minister is describing the way he is being treated, the way his
I mean, it's not
country
good.
is being treated, as being treated like a
You've had
miserable
better.
slave, I think you know that America's traditional
But I'm not
allies
complaining.
are
Happy.
feeling ill-treated, and countries are responding.
You mentioned that U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement you helped to negotiate. That is set to be reviewed by this summer. What happens if the U.S. pulls out of that?
I think that would be devastating for the U.S. economy. And one of the things that I think we have observed over the past few weeks is when there is a strong market reaction, we see that.
It's good you're talking to people not in the United States of America fucking leadership roles, so those fuckers are talking out of their ass.
At their peak.
This lady sounds like she knows what she's saying.
Negatively. And
She's from
shortly after
Canada.
that, you saw a softening of the U.S. position. position. I ultimately believe that market signals, also what the administration hears from American states, from American mayors, from American legislators, from all of the Americans who sell to Canada, I think that is ultimately going to mean that we get to a deal.
That is the former Deputy Prime Minister
Of course.
Canada, Chrystia Freeland, joining us tonight.
'Cause they're the rich ones already making more money off their money.
Pleasure.
Who gives a fuck about the workers who don't get paid shit hardly? And the prices keep going up.
A 2-month-long expedition to Antarctica has brought scientists and
So it's like you're getting
researchers to
nowhere
the
with
glacier
inflation.
on Earth, the Thwaites Glacier. It's also nicknamed the Doomsday Glacier because of its potential impact to raise sea levels if ice continues to melt. Our science correspondent, Miles O'Brien, is on that trip. The primary challenge for many of the researchers, they're trying to drill a small hole on the glacier at the place where ice, land, and the sea meet some 3,000 feet below, the so-called grounding line. The instruments they drop into the seawater could yield unprecedented data. Miles has been visiting the base camp today and has this look at the challenges of what they're doing, part of our recurring series, Tipping Point.
An apple.
So, how do you drill a hot water hole into a glacier 3,000 feet? Well, the first thing you need is a lot of hot water. And fortunately, there's a pretty much never-ending source of snow here. Behind me, these are called flubbers. The team here, there are 10 people here, had to shovel over the course of the past week or so 20 tons of snow into those containers. They are truly practicing oceanography the hard way. It's hard work, the weather was terrible, but they got what they needed to do this hot water drill hole. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. Okay, so shoveling
This
20
project
tons of
is
snow is just
funded by South
gotta
Korea.
melt it. So those 3 boxes over there, those are generators. They're connected to those 3 boxes with heaters. There's 2, 4, 6 of them. That turns the snow into water at 194 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets sent through this black hose.
How about some
This is
ice
the
cream?
key drilling hose on that black
Did you eat
spool,
some?
and it goes down the hole. There are 2 other spools there that are very important. The orange spool, which they're using right
In a
now,
bowl?
is how
In a
you
bowl
drop
or in a
down
cone?
instruments.
I like mine in a bowl, I
indicating
think.
the surface. Things like cameras and so
Gotcha.
forth. The silver
Is there a
spool
bowl?
right there, that's coaxial
Yeah, I think there's a
cable.
bowl.
It can carry data, so if you have an instrument where you want to keep reading the data as it goes down, you use that. Hard to believe, 3,000
Hard to
feet below, I
fucking
stand. We're
believe.
actually floating on the Amazon Sea, but this is how you get all the scientific instruments, get the data that scientists are so interested in finding about why this glacier is melting so quickly. This is the science stuff. This is the stuff that's going down the hole. And everything here has to be working
Down
before
the
we get
hole.
those. I don't want to touch anything. I'm going to sit down here and be very careful not to break anything. Basically, they'll be sending down instruments that measure the salinity, the temperature, the current of the water, the sedimentary picture. And here's what's kind of cool. This tower is part of a structure that will be left here with instrumentation all the way down through the glacier to the Amundsen Sea, so that scientists will be able to get real-time data continuously for hopefully a number of years on what's going on here. What are the temperatures?
We're not lucky to live that
What's
long
happening
at this
to the glacier?
rate.
Why is it melting so quickly?
And Miles O'Brien joins us
Fuck's
now
sake.
from the Thwaites Glacier. So Miles, how's it going there? I know
Fuck's
there's
sake.
limited time to get this work done.
Yeah, this is truly deadline pressure stuff. Joe and I can relate to it in our business, but they are truly under the gun, and they've run into a little bit of a snag, as you might be able to tell right here. They're working on the end of the drill hose right behind me with a crescent wrench. About 30 feet beneath the surface, as they went down, they encountered a crevasse and essentially an open cavern, which extends down about 20 or 30 feet, and then it goes back into solid snow. So you've got this open space, and you can imagine drilling a hot water hose down, and all of a sudden you're in this cavern. How are you going to keep the hose from wobbling, and how do you get the instruments to connect with the the hole at the bottom of the cavern, so to speak. So they're kind of running through this. They've never run into this before because they've always drilled in places that were more benign. But this glacier is collapsing so rapidly that the crevasses are everywhere. So they sort of expected to run into them, but this is taking their drilling technique and technology to a new level, Jeff.
And Miles, remind us what they're measuring for and why.
Well, the Thwaites Glacier is melting orders of magnitude, several times more faster than its neighbors here in Antarctica. And scientists are pretty certain that it's being eaten away from beneath by warm currents in the Amundsen Sea. There's a whole climate change connection to that has changed the wind currents around Antarctica, which has allowed this warm water to really be 3,000 feet beneath where I stand right now, well above freezing. And so the question is, how much more above freezing is it? What are the currents there? What is the nature of the melt right now? And by doing this, getting this data, they can actually come up with good predictions.
Holy fuck.
What happens here and
Jesus.
to other glaciers in this vicinity. They may not be melting as rapidly, but Thwaites is sort of a keystone which holds them back. And
I like
this
3
glacier
times in
alone
my
represents about 2.5 feet of sea level rise all over the world. The other glaciers add up about 10 feet. So it's worth paying attention to.
Good idea, babe.
So what happens from here? What are the next steps?
Well, they got to figure out how to get through this crevasse and make sure that all the instruments go through that open space. I'm sure they'll figure that out. But the clock is ticking. They only have so much fuel to keep those heaters going, keep the snow turning it into hot water. And the ship has to leave for New Zealand. At last day of work here is February 7th. So they're under the gun to get this done. They need about 3 days of drilling and science operations. So into the weekend. And hopefully they'll get through this little obstacle right now. And by the end of the weekend, they will have made a little bit of scientific history.
And Miles, can I ask you what it feels like atop the glacier there? What's the temperature?
It's down low 20s, but I got to tell you, Jeff, the wind here has a
warmer there than it is here.
which is very distinct coming off the ice. When you feel the wind, it just cuts right through you. So I am well bundled up, as you can see, but we know every moment that we are in Antarctica.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're dealing with low 20s here on the East Coast, but certainly not glacial wind. So, Miles O'Brien, our best to you and the team there in Antarctica. Thanks as always.
You're welcome, Jeff.
Well, a painting certainly can't help fix America's healthcare system, but it might help the healers themselves. That's one idea behind a new medical school in Arkansas. Senior arts correspondent Jeffrey Brown traveled there to speak with Alice Walton, who created and funded this effort. For the record, the Walton Family Foundation is a funder of the NewsHour. The piece is part of our coverage of the intersection of health and arts, part of our Canvas series.
A sprawling 134-acre campus in Bentonville, Arkansas. The 14-year-old Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, the 6-year-old Heartland Whole Health Institute, and a brand new medical school with a design evoking the local Ozark geology. Bringing art, health, and education together is the goal of the woman behind it all, Alice Walton.
We could collide these wonderful industries and wonderful people and really let them learn from each other and figure it out.
Health, art,
Yeah.
put them together.
The collide. I like the collision.
Strong door. Walton, an heir to the Walmart fortune, is one of the world's richest individuals.
Here we go.
But here she drives herself around in her own little putt-putt.
It only goes 25 miles an hour, so I can't exactly speak.
You're not too dangerous.
I'm not too dangerous, I don't think.
One area where Walton is trying to cause some trouble, the nation's healthcare system. Now by creating the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine, known by its acronym, AWESOME. Not a word she would use to describe healthcare today.
The real problem with healthcare is that there's no incentive in the payment system for doctors to spend time helping you learn what good nutrition is, how important exercise is, and frankly, doctors aren't taught those things because they're not paid for those things.
So that means the medical education system
is faulty. It is focused on let people get sick and we will fix you. So what we're trying to do is, yes, our docs will be allopathic docs. They will know how to fix you, but they will know how to keep you healthy.
It's starting out small and offering free tuition to the first 5 classes. 48 students in the school's first group take traditional science-based and clinical courses, including working on simulations of the human body. But there's also a heavy emphasis here on whole health concepts, not just the absence of illness, but a broader sense of well-being that encompasses physical, mental, behavioral, and other factors in a person's life. Not a new idea in medical practice or education, but a core concept here. And one way to get there, through integrating the arts into the training of new doctors.
When I heard that there was going to be a medical school on a museum campus, I knew that I had to come here for this job.
That was you.
That was me.
Dr. Stephen Nix, one of the brand new faculty, is a neuropathologist. He was also an English major as an undergraduate. He's studying for a master's in creative writing at Johns Hopkins University while working on a novel and loves to look at art. Integrating it into the curriculum. One goal, a deeper sense of curiosity and empathy.
Curiosity is the first step. Are we actually curious to learn more about someone or something? For care and connection to happen, you have to truly want to know more about another person. And art is a great way to be curious in a safe way with other students where you're thinking about meaning.
Maybe we should take a shower and just go to bed.
Observe how to really look.
A lot of times medical
Don't wanna
students,
do the same.
especially in healthcare professionals in general, we get really wrapped up
Yeah,
in
go take a shower.
what's right and wrong.
It's already late.
And sometimes that can
No
prevent
sense staying
us
up.
from really engaging.
Maybe you'll get a little life in you
So we
after
can
the
start with
shower.
time. And then we're looking at
Yeah.
the histology of cancer or an inflammatory disease
I need a
or
shower.
radiology.
And you want them to look at it in a different way. The way they're looking at the painting.
That's right.
We're really sort of like the pioneers trying to figure out how this is going to work.
That's how you feel?
A little bit, yeah. yeah.
23-year-old Ellie Andrew Vaughn of Ann Arbor, Michigan is one of the first cohort of students. Yes, she's studying traditional ways to be able to...
We did a lot of stuff.
But she's also found herself at Crystal Bridges in front of Norman Rockwell's...
Within fun for everyone.
...canvas.
We had a session where we were just like sitting there and going,
It's hard to get the
let's
tragic
stare at this painting for 15 minutes and like try to
side of life, I guess.
everything that we
Sad
see
part
in
of
the
life with
painting, and
death.
then everything that we're not seeing.
Off my mind.
So like, what is she looking at that's off of the screen, or what like are some of the things in her background, and trying to sort of extrapolate those things.
And then using that to think about patients.
Yeah, how to sort of like extrapolate what's going on in their life and what are some of sort of the factors that are bringing them in and having them be in my office right now.
How can works from our collection help tell the stories of the interconnections between our interiors and our exteriors, between mind and body? To think about
from the art side of things.
Between DDT sprayed everywhere in the government not regulating it, causing all these fucking birth defects.
She put together an exhibition from the museum's collection titled The Art of Whole Health, works in which artists have addressed directly or indirectly their own experiences of health and wellness. And though she told me she'd never even been in a medical school before this, the connections were immediately clear.
All of the ways in which art historians look at a work of art to try to understand it from its time and place to its relevance today has an analog in how doctors in training are trying to think about understanding a patient, whether it's a diagnosis, whether it's a mental health issue. I think the principles of whole health actually relate very closely to the holistic way that we try to understand a work of art.
Another key component of the arts integration here, the need for
Goddamn right.
and care for.
That's all we said. YouTube is the perfect way to drink alcohol. Make videos, limit it to that.
And we got to learn
It's the new way.
teach in a different way, to
Fuck
reduce
it.
to teach our docs and our
Fuck that witchcraft. It don't
give them a
work.
space that they can manage, learn to manage their
Just look at Slayer Silver.
because it comes with a job.
In fact, caring for oneself is how this all began for Alice Walton. A car accident in the 1980s left her with serious injuries requiring operations over more than a decade, along with the anxieties and depression of chronic illness. She was then turned to acrylics and watercolors.
I would paint where